God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and studying A Course in Miracles workbook for students, lesson 178. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles here on Wednesday, June the 26th of 2024. And I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks. Sitting here in my son Stephen's backyard, where he's got, I think about 3 years ago, we started I think he told me 25 Jerusalem artichokes. Look at them now. A few daylilies in bloom there too. But we'll talk about the Jerusalem artichokes here in just a few minutes. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. You know, the thought of God is love. And we're to see that in all our brothers and sisters. And if we're not seeing it, we're denying the thought of God. And we're going to learn more and more that minds are all connected, and its thought is the only reality. And so as we begin to tune in with the thought of God and not deny it, the whole world of beauty opens up to us. And then sandwiched in that idea today, we're to take our time to contemplate God is but love, and therefore so am I. And then the other idea to associate with it is lesson 166, which is also a review. I am sustained, or I am entrusted with the gifts of God. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. So that's lesson 166. Lesson 165 was let me not deny the thought of God. And, you know, we've been entrusted with the gifts of God. You know, we've been given love to now spread love. And the way that you know you have something is by giving it away. And that extends it, it multiplies it, it increases it. So you do your part in what's been given to you, sharing it with the world. God being love is also happiness, but God is but love, and therefore so am I. So that love that you are, be sure to give that which you've been entrusted with to the world, to extend it. And like I said, God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is love, and God is happiness, or love is happiness. So stay cheerful. If you're not cheerful, that's why we want to take if we're not cheerful, be sure to check in and find out why, and let it go, and replace it with the eternal truth. That which will always make you cheerful and happy, if you can see it the way that the kingdom of heaven sees it. and not get caught in the appearances of this world. We want to, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, heaven doesn't know of any pain or suffering, and we can bring heaven here by siding with truth in this moment and not letting the appearances of evil, or ignorance as I like to think of it, seem to make you want to avoid or withdraw from your trust, which is love to give. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. So be sure to do your longer period of meditation morning and evening. And, aim for 15 minutes, but do at least 5 minutes, he says. Morning and evening, hanging out with this idea, God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. And God is but love, and therefore so am I. And then throughout the day, keep that alive throughout the day. And by bringing your thought back to it and saying it to yourself at the top of every hour of the day, be sure to find something to give God thanks for that hour gone by, and ask Him for guidance for the hour yet to come. And by doing that, you'll stay in that holy presence, that holy instant. You can maintain it throughout the day. The holy relationship, turning all of our special relationships into holy relationships. Okay, so that's our review for today. Let's go look at our text reading, and we're in chapter 19, the attainment of peace. Maybe you think that that's not even possible in this world, and I will say it's a challenge. But remember, there's no order of difficulty in miracles, and we can have the miracle of peace. That's our identity anyway. It's really just bringing into focus what's already occurring. But our beliefs and our perceptions make the world that we think we are in. So if our perceptions are flawed, then we're going to have a flawed world that we're seeing. It won't be according to heaven, according to love, according to truth. So we want to begin to look a little closer at the premises on which we've built our lives, the operating system we're using, and begin to let it go in lieu of those ideas that are eternal, that cannot pass away, our changeless reality. The Course calls it the road without distance, the journey without distance. Okay, now before we look at the unreality of sin, which is section 3, let's see what's going on around the world today. I'd mentioned to you yesterday about my dad, Samuel Genoa Perkins' birthday, follows my son Justice's birthday. And his name was Samuel Genoa Perkins. He was born on this day in 1934 in Shreveport, Louisiana, and he made his crossing in 2007. Out of holidays and observances, we've got Beautician's Day, Forgiveness Day. Now that ought to be called A Course in Miracles Day. Maybe in some day in the future, 100 years from now or something, there'll be enough people that go, hey, this is Forgiveness Day. And I will say that my dad was an incredible example of being able to love without limit. He'd sometimes, my mom could be a real challenge, and he seemed to always take it in stride as he got, now when he was younger he didn't, but as he got older, he said, well, I just love your mom. I'm willing to overlook, Anyway, isn't that what love does? It knows how to forgive because it realizes there's a deeper reality than what's just happening on the surface. Matter of fact, forgiveness, I love the first sentence of what is forgiveness that we'll come to here in the second part of our text. And in that section, it starts off by saying, forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. There wasn't any sin. There was no judgment. We're going to learn about that in our text reading for today, too. So Forgiveness Day, International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, International Day in support of victims of torture. Oh my, to fall into the concept where we think we have to torture somebody. Canoe Day. I've always thought it'd be nice for a canoe float from wherever you live all the way to the ocean on a certain day, and saying we float for peace in all our canoes and kayaks. Call it Canoe Day. Today be a good day to do something like that. So go float for peace. Say it's Canoe Day. Parchment Cooking Day. I've never done much parchment cooking, but evidently there's some benefits to it, holding maybe the juices in and stuff. Tropical Cocktails Day and World Refrigeration Day. And then I said we were going to say a little bit about Jerusalem artichokes, which I'm sitting in front of them, also known as sunchokes. Helianthus is the genus, and it's a tuberosus. And I just love the flavor of them. They're like a little potato, the ground tuber, and you can leave them in the ground. They won't mature until until late in the summer. If you dug one up now, I don't think they'd be very big. I'm not sure, actually. I've never dug them up in the summertime. They're usually, what you do is they're related to the sunflower, Helianthus. And you can kind of see they look like a sunflower. Matter of fact, here's one. That one there bent over, so you can't. It'd normally be upright, but there's what they look like. And the Helianthus tuberosus. I found on National Institute of Health that they have anti-fungistatic qualities, anti-carcinogenic qualities, antioxidant compounds, and they're anti-inflammatory. I tell you what, that they've got a compound in them called inulin, not insulin, inulin, which is a good probiotic. It's an undigestible fiber, and those undigestible fibers are excellent to give your microbiome and those bacteria, gut bacteria, a place to live, hang out, and I think they can digest them. But they're very good, and I just like the flavor. They're like I like them better than a potato. My ground doesn't grow them as well as his ground. He planted these 25 and doesn't even take care of them, and they just do well. So anyway, some places they seem to take a nice, rich, deep soil. I am going to get. I planted a bunch, and they had lost their vigor by the time I planted them this spring. So I didn't get a good start of them. Matter of fact, none of them even came up. I'd never had that happen. But anyway, the little tubers, and I just love them. Boil them, cook them like a potato. Okay, the unreality of sin. And let's keep with us our idea for today. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. Okay, the unreality of sin. The attraction of guilt is found in sin, not error. Sin will be repeated because of this attraction. Fear can become so acute that the sin is denied the acting out. But while the guilt remains attractive, the mind will suffer and not let go of the idea of sin. For guilt still calls to it, and the mind hears it and yearns for it, making itself a willing captive to its sick appeal. Sin is an idea of evil that cannot be corrected, and yet will be forever desirable. As an essential part of what the ego thinks you are, you will always want it. And only an avenger with a mind unlike your own could stamp it out through fear. 2. The ego does not think it possible that love, not fear, is really called upon by sin and always answers. For the ego brings sin to fear, demanding punishment. Yet punishment is but another form of guilt's protection. For what is deserving punishment must have been really done. Punishment is always the great preserver of sin, treating it with respect and honoring its enormity. What must be punished must be true, according to the ego. And what is true must be eternal and will be repeated endlessly. For what you think is real, you want and will not let it go. There's one of those flawed premises. An error, on the other hand, is not attractive. What you see clearly as a mistake, you want corrected. Sometimes a sin can be repeated over and over with obviously distressing results, but without the loss of its appeal. And suddenly you change its status from a sin to a mistake. Now you will not repeat it. You will merely stop and let it go unless the guilt remains. For then you will but change the form of sin, granting that it was an error, but keeping it uncorrectable. This is not really a change in your perception, for it is sin that calls for punishment, not error. Paragraph 4. The Holy Spirit cannot punish sin. Mistakes he recognizes and would correct them all as God entrusted him to do. But sin he knows not, nor can he recognize mistakes that cannot be corrected. For a mistake that cannot be corrected is meaningless to him. Isn't that nice to know? That mistakes that cannot be corrected are meaningless to God or the Holy Spirit? Mistakes are for correction, and they call for nothing else. What calls for punishment must call for nothing. Every mistake must be a call for love. What then is sin? What could it be but a mistake you would keep hidden? A call for help that you would keep unheard and thus unanswered. Paragraph 5. In time, the Holy Spirit clearly sees the Son of God can make mistakes in time. On this you share his vision, yet you do not share his recognition of the difference between time and eternity. And when correction is completed, time is eternity. Isn't that nice? You don't have to wait on time. We just get our correction taken care of. And time is eternity. See, everything is beautiful. Practice forgiveness. That's the atonement, the interlocking chain of forgiveness. That when it's complete, welds together with it the atonement, or the bringing of heaven to earth, the perfect world, the real world. The Holy Spirit can teach you how to look on time differently and see beyond it, but not while you believe in sin. In error, yes, for this can be corrected by the mind. But sin is the belief that your perception is unchangeable and that the mind must accept as true what it is told through it. If it does not obey, the mind is judged insane. The only power that could change perception is thus kept impotent, held to the body by the fear of changed perception, which its teacher, the Holy Spirit, who is one with it, would bring. Paragraph 6. When you are tempted to believe that sin is real, remember this. If sin is real, both God and you are not. When you are tempted to believe that sin is real, remember this. If sin is real, both you and God are not. If creation is extension, the Creator must have extended himself, and it is impossible that what is part of him is totally unlike the rest. If sin is real, God must be at war with himself. He must be split and torn between good and evil, partly sane and partially insane. For he must have created what wills to destroy him, and has the power to do so. Is it not easier to believe that you have been mistaken than to believe in this? Wouldn't it be nice just to say, well, maybe I made a mistake here, instead of keeping my firm resolve that I know what's true. That's why our Course in Miracles begins with, I don't know what anything means. Have that open mind so that you can begin to see what's true, what's real. So he says, for he must have created what wills to destroy him and has the power to do so. Is it not easier to believe that you have been mistaken than to believe in this? While you believe that your reality or your brother's is bounded to a body, you will believe in sin. While you believe that bodies can unite, you will find guilt attractive and believe that sin is precious. For the belief that bodies limit mind leads to a perception of the world in which the proof of separation seems to be everywhere. And God and his creation seem to be split apart and overthrown. For sin would prove what God created holy could not prevail against it, nor remain itself before the power of sin. Sin is perceived as mightier than God, before which God himself must bow and offer his creation to its conqueror. Is this humility or madness? Paragraph 8. If sin is real, it must forever be beyond the hope of healing, for there would be a power beyond God's, capable of making another will that could attack his will and overcome it, and give his son a will apart from his and stronger. Now, that's that old belief in the devil, that's more powerful than God. What a silly notion to think that there's a conflicting will that God created. But that's where you come to when you believe that sin is real. So we want to begin to see that we don't unite with our brothers in their bodies. We unite with them in our minds, where we're already united, because there's only one God and only one thought, one mind, one spirit. And so let's back up. For there would be a power beyond God's, capable of making another will that could attack his will and overcome it, and give his son a will apart from his and stronger. And each part of God's fragmented creation would have a different will, opposed to his and in eternal opposition to him and to each other. Your holy relationship has as its purpose now the goal of proving this is impossible, that we're all united in the oneness. And that's what we learn to see instead of in our special relationship. It's two individuals separate, but in a holy relationship, we realize that I am that, and they are me, that there's one of us here. Heaven has smiled upon your holy relationship. Your holy relationship has as its purpose now the goal of proving this is impossible. Heaven has smiled upon it, and the belief in sin has been uprooted in its smile of love. You see it still because you do not realize that its foundation has gone. Its source has been removed, and so it can be cherished but a little while before it vanishes. Only the habit of looking for it still remains. Only the habit of looking for it still remains. And yet you look with heaven's smile upon your lips and heaven's blessing on your sight. You will not see sin long, for in the new perception the mind corrects it when it seems to be seen, and it becomes invisible. Errors are quickly recognized and quickly given to correction to be healed, not hidden. You will be healed of sin and all its ravages the instant that you give it no power over your brother. Wow, catch that? You will be healed of sin and all its ravages the instant that you give it no power over your brother. And you will help him overcome mistakes by joyously releasing him from the belief in sin. In the holy instant, you will see the smile of heaven shining on both you and your brother, and you will shine upon him in glad acknowledgement of the grace that has been given you. For sin will not prevail against a union heaven has smiled upon. Your perception was healed in the holy instant heaven gave you. Forget what you have seen and raise your eyes in faith to what you now can see. The barriers to heaven will disappear before your holy sight. For you who were sightless have been given vision, and you can see. Look not for what has been removed, for by the glory that has been restored for you to see. Look not for what has been removed, but for the glory that has been restored for you to see. And our last paragraph, paragraph 11. Look upon your Redeemer, and behold what he would show you in your brother. And let not sin arise again to blind your eyes. Don't see sin in your brothers. See their holiness. See their appeals for help. See their love. For sin would keep you separate from him, but your Redeemer, capital R, but your Redeemer would have you look upon your brother as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself because they are you. We're all in this together. We're all manifestations of each other. Let's manifest reality instead of illusions by not practicing the belief in sin. For sin would keep you separate from your brother and sister, but your Redeemer would have you look upon your brother as yourself. Your relationship is now a temple of healing, a place where all the weary ones can come and rest. Here is the rest that waits for all after the journey, and it is brought nearer to all by your relationship. Looks like that sun's getting ready to pop up there. Morning sun. Okay, well, as we finish, looks like a halo, huh? Over my the bright light of love in my crown chakra. Okay, God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. And yesterday I said it was the Iroquois word, Akina. Akina. It's actually the Algonquin word for peace, is Akina. And there's another Algonquin word for peace, and it's, let's see if I can get this. I actually looked it up, and make sure I get it right. Wâki Ijiwebis-I. Wâki Ijiwebis-I. So we'll use that for our word for peace today. Wâki Ijiwebis-I, which is the Algonquin word for peace also, as well as Akina. Akina is sure a lot easier to say for me, but I like the other word, Wâki Ijiwebis-I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Wâki Ijiwebis-I.